Hello everyone, welcome to the complete blockchain Solidity developer course. In this video we will talk about smart contracts, the language options that we have to write smart contracts. We will have an introduction to Solidity. Then we will explore the different development environments that we have to write our own smart contracts. And after that we will write our own simple smart contract and execute it on the blockchain. So let's dive in. First of all, let's talk about smart contracts and what are they. Smart contracts are simply programs stored on blockchain that run when predetermined conditions are met. So the question raised here that why do we use these smart contracts? We use these smart contracts to automate the execution of agreements on the blockchain, of course. And how are these smart contracts working? These smart contracts work by automate the execution of our agreements by executing some business logic in response to an event that's fired by us by the user. So what else can we do with these smart contracts? Smart contracts execution can result in exchange of money, delivery of services, unlocking of content protected by digital rights management, or any other types of data manipulation. So the next question might be that are these smart contracts the same as the real world contracts that we use to sign? Despite the name, the smart contracts are not legally binding contracts. Their name sounds the same, but they are not the same. The main function of the smart contract is to execute some business logic that perform various tasks, processes, or transactions on the blockchain. So, what options do we have to write our smart contracts? What languages can we use to write smart contracts? There are a bunch of options. There are lots of languages that we can use to write our own smart contracts. For example, we can write smart contracts using Solidity. This is the most preferred language and most in-demand language. That is the topic of this course as well. The next one is Python. Python is a famous language. Of course, it have lots of usage. In the tech industry. We have JavaScript as an option. JavaScript is, the most trending language. So far, we can write smart contracts using Rust, using C#, and so many other languages. Besides them, we have some frameworks as well. We can say that mostly every blockchain have their own frameworks and languages. For example, if we consider the Algorand blockchain uses a language named Teal, but we have another Python library for that, which is called PyTeal. We can write code using this PyTeal language. We can write our code using PyTeal library, and when we compile this, we can then transform it into the Teal that we can then deploy it to the blockchain. So basically, mostly every blockchain have their own language, but we are going to study the Solidity language. We are going to create applications using this language, smart contracts, and obviously we will explore these other languages as well if we have time. So let's discuss about Solidity and see what is Solidity. So the first thing that in every documentation site or in every blog that you may read about Solidity, you will see they say that Solidity is a static type language. It's object oriented. It's a high level language, and we use it for implementing smart contracts. Let's see what do we mean by static type. Usually there are two types of languages. There is the static type language, and we have dynamic type language. There's a difference between these two. Static type languages are usually called strict type languages, strict type, and the dynamic type languages are called loosely types. These are the alternative names that you may hear a lot while discussing about these topics. So what's the difference between these two types of languages? The static type languages used to these languages check the data type, the static type, the first type. Static type languages checks the data type in the compile time. We will see a sample of this. And the second type, which is dynamic type languages, they check the data type at runtime. So Solidity is a static type language. I will show you guys an example later, but for now you should notice that in static type languages it's strictly defined that you should declare a variable with its type. You cannot declare a variable without a type. It means that if you want to store a number in a variable, you should declare its type as number. If you want to store a string in a variable, you should declare its type as string. But in dynamic type, it is checked during the runtime. When the program runs, the compiler automatically, or the runtime, detects the detects the type of data and says what type of data it is. The next thing that is mentioned here is object oriented. Object oriented is a programming paradigm. Object oriented, it's a programming paradigm which uses the concept of classes and objects. Solidity uses this programming paradigm to make our code well structured and reusable. It's also a high level language. We have again two type of languages. One is high level languages, and the next one is low level languages. You may sometimes see the third type, which is the medium level languages, but for now we will discuss only these two. High level languages, these are near to English. When we write code in it, this is near to English, we can read it. But low level languages, these are mostly close to machine, like the assembly language, if you have heard about it. The assembly language is very close to machine and it works with hardware as well. But Solidity is a high level language. We can easily write code in it, but assembly is really hard. If you have time, just do a research on that. So the next thing that we are going to say about Solidity is that Solidity is a curly bracket language. It's designed to target the Ethereum virtual machine, and it's influenced by C++, Python, and JavaScript. If you have experience with these languages, C++, Python, or JavaScript, Solidity will be very much easy for you. But if you don't worry, that's much better. You can start from scratch and you can just learn the syntax of the Solidity. The next thing that we are going to discuss in this video is the development environment options that we have for writing our Solidity smart contracts. There are a bunch of options. We can use some frameworks like the Hard Hat framework, which is pretty famous. The Truffle, we can use the Truffle suite for developing smart contracts and blockchain applications. And the third option that we will use in this video is the online IDE, which is called the Remix IDE. This will make writing our code very easy. In this video we will use the remix id, but in the upcoming videos we will set up our own development environment which will enable us to locally develop applications and write smart contracts. So let's head over to the remix.ethereum.org. This is the URL if you need it. Remix.ethereum https://remix.ethereum.org. Head over to this URL and let's start writing our own smart contract. Accept, cancel this. So in here you will see a few tabs. The first tab, or the first icon that you can see to the left, this is used to this is the file manager. Here you can create files and all this stuff. The second is the search icon. Here is the compile type, and here is the next option that enables you to deploy your smart contract. Let's start with the first one. Click on the contracts folder. Here are a few pre-written contracts. We don't need them. We will create our own. This is the icon that you can click on it to create a new file, or you can just right click on the contracts folder and create your new file. Let's name our file hello world.sol. So the next important thing here that you should notice is that when we create a Solidity file, we should add the extension .sol or sol to it. .sol. This is the extension of a Solidity file. Every language have their own extension that their files should end with that. The Solidity language have the extension .sol. So the first thing that we have to write in here is the license identifier, SPDX. SPDX is it's a list of common license that are used mostly in the open source softwares. So we should specify the license identifier. You can specify MIT or GPL or whatever. Next, the first line that you should write in your smart contract is specifying the version of the Solidity that you are using. We specify the version of the Solidity using the pragma keyword and Solidity. In here, we specify the version of the Solidity that we are going to use in our smart contract. Let's see what's the current version. Head over to Solidity docs. Solidity docs. You can see right here that the current version is 0.8.16. We can specify the version right here, 0.8.16, and we should terminate the line by putting a semicolon in here. So this is how we specify the version of the Solidity that we are going to use in our file. The next thing that we are going to do is create our contract. So previously I told you that Solidity is an object-oriented programming language. In here, instead of classes that we use in other object-oriented programming languages, we use contracts, and we create contract using the contract keyword and giving it a name. It's a convention to use a capital letter at the start of the class names. Use the Pascal case if you are using multiple words. So for now, let's give a simple name called hello to our contract. For now, you should not worry about all this stuff, right? About this code that I'm writing right in here. We will have individual videos on each one of these topics. For now, let's write our own our first simple function that will return a hello world to us. Right, we will write a function keyword, and the next thing that we are going to do is specify a name for the function. For example, say hello. This is optional. You can name your function however you want. The next thing that we do is that we should specify the access modifier. The accessibility level. It should be public, private, or internal, external. These are the keywords that are used in Solidity. Next, we are using the pure function. Don't worry about it, I will explain all of this in detail for you. Public pure returns the type of data that we are going to return. And as you can see, we said that Solidity is a curly bracket language. We are using curly brackets in here, so we can return the famous hello world message. This is, I think, the first program that we write in every language. Now when we save this, you can see that there is a warning. What does it say? It says that from Solidity, parse error, source file requires different compiler version. Current compiler is 0.8.7. You can see that we have used 0.8.16 version in here, but if you come to the compile tab, there is an error in here. You can see that the compile version selected by default in here is 0.8.7. we can either change this to 0.8.7 or we can change this compiler version to our own 0.8.16. Now to compile this contract in Remix, you can press the Ctrl S button. This automatically compiles the smart contract for you, or you can come to the compile tab and press the compile manually from here. Now our contract is compiled. If we come to the last tab, which is the deploy and run transactions, here you can select different environments. For now, don't worry about this. We are going to discuss these in a later video. The one that's selected, just let it be. Next thing, one thing that I forgot to tell you, that every smart contract that we deploy on the blockchain, this resides on an address. It means an address is responsible for deploying a smart contract on the blockchain, and that will be able to manipulate that and execute transactions and all this stuff. So the next thing in here is we can select these, or these are test addresses. You don't worry, these are not real ethers. I mean, we have multiple addresses in here. Just select one of them. This is the gas limit. Don't worry about the gas right now. We will discuss this in great details. This is a really required topic in blockchain. The value of the gas in WEG, these are the denominators of ether. And the next thing in here is the contract tab. Here you may have multiple contracts compiled. You should select the one that you want to compile. Here it's selected by default because we have compiled only one contract. And press the deploy button. Here is the console. When we press the deploy button, the contract got deployed. If we explore this tab, you can see we have different parameters in here. This is the status: true transaction mined and execution succeeded. It means that our contract is deployed successfully. The transaction has from to the amount of gas that we spent and all this stuff. We will talk about this in much detail. So if we come to the bottom, in here you can see that the hello world contract is deployed at this address. If we press this button, say hello, this is the function that we wrote. It returns the hello world message that we specified. You can see right here the string hello world, the type of the data that we returned from the contract. This is right here. All right, this is the message. And this is the function that's accessible right here. This makes your life a lot easier at the beginning, so try using the Remix for writing your Solidity smart contract, Solidity code, and practicing it. So I guess that's it for this video. The video is getting too long. We will discuss more topics in the next videos. And at the end of the video, I just wanted to show you guys some resources that you can use for learning the basics and advanced theoretical concepts, as well as the practical practical examples of the smart contracts. The first resource that I'm suggesting to you guys is the Solidity docs. You can head over to docs.soliditylang.org and read the documentation. There are a lot of good stuff. The next site that I'm suggesting to you guys is learnweb3.io. These guys have done an amazing job. You can use their documentation to study different topics. I mean, either practical and theoretical concepts in the blockchain. They have freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior tracks. They have a lots of stuff in here, and you guys should definitely visit their website. Next, you can head over to ethereum.org. Ethereum.org also have some great documentation for developers. You can use their website and explore different topics. So this is the end of the video in here. See you guys in the next one. Have a good day.